As you might know by now, I was on assignment in Israel for several days to interview Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Interesting footnote. We were told after the interview it was the longest TV interview the Prime Minister had ever done, which is interesting because he's the longest serving head of state in Israeli history and by far the most media experienced and the most media savvy. The interview ran some 90 minutes, and you can watch it all in full on YouTube. We traveled to Israel because right now so much quite obviously hangs in the balance. Two ceasefires, one with Iran, one with Lebanon, both appear to be hanging by a thread. Negotiations to end the war with Iran appear to have minimal momentum, and hanging over the Middle East and the energy-dependent global economy, the specter of a return to all-out war, something President Trump keeps threatening, and Netanyahu, in our conversation, did not rule out. We will play many news-making moments from the interview, including Netanyahu's take on the health and actual influence of Iran's supreme leader and what he regards, but has never said before, as the most significant Israeli accomplishment in its war with Iran. Get my camera straight here in a second. I'm back in New York. Everything is a little hectic. But we will start with what has proved to be a nagging Achilles heel in the war strategy and has become quite obviously an economic pressure point worldwide. That is the strangling by Iran of the Strait of Hormuz, and then the subsequent U.S. naval blockade done as a response. Was this choke point, we wondered, factored in as a pre-war risk? I asked the Prime Minister about extensive New York Times reporting that in pre-war conversations with President Trump, the Prime Minister and his team asserted Iran would not choke off the Strait of Hormuz. Listen.
The problem of the Hormuz Straits was understood as the fighting went on. I think that's...
It became understood.
It became understood.
Was it misread at the beginning?
I'm not sure it was misread, but there's a great risk for Iran to do it. And it took a while for them to understand how big that risk is, which they understand now.
Because of the blockade?
Because of the blockade, and that's actually a brilliant move by the president. I think it's very smart. I don't think they calculated, I think they didn't calculate the response that this would have. Yes, they could cause a global dislocation of markets, trying to take over an international maritime route. They could do that, but they should have understood that that would eventually cause a reaction that was very powerful, and that is now collapsing their economy. So did people understand, that we understand that, yeah, they could do it, but then they wouldn't do it because they understood what would happen if they did do it? I don't claim perfect foresight, and nobody had perfect foresight. Neither did the Iranians. They should have figured out that that's what's coming.
Did you say that most of these risks would be minimal?
I don't remember using that language, and
would that be a fair interpretation?
No, I would say that the overall conception was that this would elicit a response that they probably would not shoulder, but they did shoulder, and now they're attacking. They're being attacked accordingly.
My colleague Nancy Cordes spoke by phone with President Trump today about the Netanyahu interview, which he said he watched. Nancy, I understand the president had a somewhat pointed reaction to what we just heard from the Israeli Prime Minister.
Right, Major. Overall, he said he thought the interview, which he did watch, was pretty good in his words, but he did take issue with Netanyahu's claim that it wasn't possible to have perfect foresight about the fact that the Iranians would do as much as they have to hold up the strait and choke off global oil supply. When I asked President Trump about that today, he said, actually, he did have the foresight. He knew it was going to happen. He said, I knew they would close it. That's the only weapon they have. It's not much of a weapon anymore. So the president disagreeing with his main partner in this war, Bibi Netanyahu, saying that he was well aware of the risks that he was taking on when he started this war, and he still believes that he is going to be triumphant at some point in getting the Iranians to reopen the strait.
Nancy, the other big question is, what is the state in the president's mind of the current ceasefire with Iran?
Well, he had some choice words for Iran today. Over the weekend, he said that the latest Iranian proposal was totally unacceptable. So I asked him today what it was about that proposal that was unacceptable? Was it the fact that they weren't willing to make concessions on their nuclear program? And he said it was everything. It was just a bad proposal, a stupid proposal, badly written, badly delivered. And in remarks in the Oval Office, he said that the ceasefire itself, which was already on shaky ground, is now in even more trouble. Take a listen.
It's unbelievably weak, I would say. I would call it the weakest right now. After reading that piece of garbage they sent us, I didn't even finish reading it. They said, I'm not going to waste my time reading it. I would say it's one of the weakest right now. It's on life support.
He said he may return to Project Freedom or something, in his words, more severe, but he wouldn't say what that more severe option would look like, Major.
Nancy Cordes, before I let you go, very quickly on the federal gas tax, the president told you something interesting about what he has in mind and how that might address a very noticeable and uncomfortable spike in gas prices nationwide.
Yes, he's said he's very open to suspending the federal gas tax. That would mean that gas prices would drop by about 18 cents a gallon. As soon as he said that, Republicans in Congress began drafting up legislation immediately to impose a 3 to 6 month pause in the gas tax. Democrats had already proposed something similar a couple of months ago, so it looks like this may be heading down the track, Major.
Congress would need to be involved. Nancy Cordes, thank you so very much.